Welcome back to the I Jupiter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Franklin, and today we have a very special guest, Tex from Texas Front Porch Podcast. I'm super excited about it. We are currently at 610 subscribers. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Go ahead and subscribe to Texas channel. Go ahead and subscribe to Blondes and Booze, Paranormal Among Us, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, all those above. These are a great group of podcasters who come together and make a quality product that you all enjoy. So without further ado, let's welcome to the Eye of Jupiter podcast, Tex.
Hey folks, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Do the Eye of Jupiter podcast, listeners, followers, watchers, a debt of service, and tell us a little bit about yourself and where we can find you.
Well, I'm out of Fort Worth, Texas, and I've been doing, I guess, active Bigfoot research since about 2017, I guess. Hey, Jenny, and I kind of started my channel, my YouTube channel, and now it's just kind of blew up on me. But really to help people, because people have these experiences, they really don't have a good place to go to talk to them. I mean, talk to anybody, because most, you talk to most people, and they're going to tell you either you're lying or you're crazy. And having dealt with that myself, I wanted to give a platform to people where they could at least reach out to somebody that wouldn't tell them that, and if had been through, similar situations, because a lot of people are traumatized by these experiences they have. So, I've been blessed, and I've surrounded myself with people that are not of the same train of thought. We do not all have the same beliefs. We have differences on stuff and everything, and that's what makes it special, because we can have these conversations, across the aisle per se, without being at each other's throats. You have, like, the cryptid side of it. You have the what's called, the flesh and blood camp, and then you have what's called the woo side. And I hate that word. I guess the better word for it, I guess, is supernatural side of it. Hey, Pixie, and we've been trying to get the communities together, because if we can have conversations and go, well, what if, in both sides, that's how we're going to learn. Because if we don't, if we just talk inside our own box, we're just going to talk in circles, and we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to be stuck the same place we have the last 50 or 60 years. But
it's like a mechanic. It's like a mechanic with half a toolbox. You're trying to figure out what the problem is on the car, and you're just like, well, I've only brought my ratchets. Where's your screwdrivers? Screwdrivers are insane. You don't need that. And if we're trying to figure out something, this mystery, what people are experiencing and traumatizing them, why wouldn't we use the whole toolkit? I agree.
Right. So I've brought together, and I'm not patting myself on the back because honestly, these people that nothing in the way I believe, and you ain't got to believe the way I do. I don't care. I interviewed a pagan the other day, and I'm a Christian. I don't
There you
care.
go.
You know, um, the but in my eyes, nothing happens by accident. So I've met these people for a reason, and that's Jason McLean was the first one I brought as a co-host, of course, and he hates it when I say this, but he's one of the most intelligent men I've ever met, and he's talented in so many areas. He's a published, author. He does comic books. He's an artist. He's been on, the what is it? It used to be the Art Bell Show, and now it's whatever they're calling it now. But he's been on there a couple of times. He's very well rounded, and I don't mean his shape, but that too. But um, then I've got Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Bigfoot Michigan Rob has followed me since I was on another channel. Well, me and him became friends, and he had an experience, and I was, honestly, it started out kind of helping him deal with what he had seen and his friends.
What happened
And
to him and his girlfriend and all that? Yes, I
yeah,
know. I
yeah,
know this
yeah.
story. I've had him on. Yes, fantastic man.
And then I brought him home. I brought him on trying to help him out because he actually wanted to do a sports show. But he didn't know, where to go and what to do and everything. I said, well, you can cut your teeth over here if you want, and I'll help you all I can. and he was a co-host on my show, and then he started his own deal, and he's growing like a weed. And then Jessica Jones, I had her, she, remote viewer, the Cryptid Huntress. She was on my channel and a co-host for a while. Had her own show and kind of springboarded, and I can't take all the credit for she's just blowing up. I mean, but kind of helped her, I guess. I hope if I could be just a little bit of a help, that's all I'm looking for, because other people's success is my success, and that's the way I see it.
There you go. There you go, buddy.
And then I've got Blondes and Booze, which Brandy is a co-host on my channel, and Krista is now a co-host over on Rob's channel. So we've, and then they've got their own thing. They're growing like a weed. So it's all working out. And then you throw Danielle Diva in the mix, and she was on Spaced Out Radio, and then she she quit doing that, and then she came over to my channel, and she's got her own show, and she's co-host on our true crime podcast with me. Well, then the latest I say youngest the latest member of the team is Monica Rollins. Well, if you don't know Monica Rollins, if you ever watched Monster Quest and you saw the first season where they had the whole female investigation, she was part of that. And I met her at a Dogman conference in Fort Worth that Josh Turner had put on, and I spoke at.
And that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, which was
that was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, fabulous conference. And we met, and we just kind of clicked. And now she's co-hosting everywhere, and she's got her own show. So all of these people, and then our tech troll, as we call him, Randy. I brought him on. I've known the cat for almost 40 years. I've known him since he was in middle school, and he came on to help me with the technical side of it, and now he's got his own channel, Truth or Tinfoil. So I mean, and him and Brandy's co-hosting over there. I mean, we are literally a family. I mean,
that's great, man.
And I wouldn't be in any of this or doing any of this or still doing any of this if it wasn't for them, because
It
that
definitely
is,
helps. It definitely helps
yeah,
having someone in your corner that you can kind of turn to and go, I'm still having issues with this situation. Because like
right,
when soldiers like myself have come back from conflict and have PTSD, a lot of this stuff carries over when these people have these experiences. And we know that Brandy and Krista are going out and they ran into something with the BTK killer and they helped that person out. It's
right,
about like because these things are not to be spoken of. They're becoming more and more accepted, I guess you would say, which is why our podcasts are being pushed a little bit more forward in the algorithms of YouTube and alike.
yeah.
And it's always good to have someone on your side that's a friend who kind of knows what you've been through and just like create a platform which people can come and talk about these things. I think that's I think that's a very wonderful thing that you guys are doing.
Well, I appreciate that. I really do. It's humbling. I mean, and I've branched out. I've started. I'm in the middle of writing a book, and we're fixing to release our first book. Me and Danielle, we're fixing to release our true crime book, and she's got a couple of books under her belt. And it's and of course Rob just released his first book, and
Yeah.
it's and we're starting to do conferences. In fact, we've the Alabama Bigfoot Conference is the next one we got up, and it's in the first weekend of June at 6th and 7th, or 7th and 8th. And it's Anita Collier's brainchild. It's her baby, but she was good enough to bring us on and let us help with it. And we've got just a fantastic line of speakers, and it's I'm this is the third year she's had it, and this is most we've all been involved in a conference as far as the planning side of it. I've spoken in a few conferences. I just got back from doing the Falk Monster conference up in Falk, Arkansas,
Hmm.
which was Craig Woolheater's deal. Me and Lyle and Ryan Edwards, which is a new and up and coming. We got it. He's 23 years old and he's working on his third book. And
Wow.
so yeah, and but we've got to get that younger generation in here because we're I'm not a spring chicken, and so we got to get these young folks interested. And we've got four young folks that tend to go out in the field with us. We've got because we don't just get on here and talk about it. We actually go out in the field and investigate and I'm not talking about going out for a couple of hours, walking around. When it gets dark, we go home. No, 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 no. We'll spend, we spend up to a week out in the brush, and it's the thing that we're running into, or what we started running into, is we're running into things that can't be written off as flesh and blood encrypted experiences.
Okay.
Okay, we started seeing the paranormal aspect of things come in. And I wasn't the first, but I was among the first that said, hey, I'm doing cryptid research, but let me bring in a paranormal team and the tools that they bring to the table.
Yes.
And so we started doing joint investigations. The first ones I started doing that with was Amy and Laney from their mother and daughter team. Absolutely brilliant, from What the Paranormal. And we do most of our research I do most of my research in Oklahoma, and then we've got other areas covered. Brandy and Krista, they go all over the place. They're all over the country, but they're in Missouri,
Right.
and you know they do a lot of their research up there, and they've caught some great stuff. Well, Brandy has also been out to my research area with me a couple of times down here in Texas, and it's just something, and we're trying to bring in not only the paranormal side of tools and the cryptid research, but we're also bringing in more scientific stuff because what we're looking for is data that we can quantify, that we can record, that
Right.
happens over and over. And that's what a lot of things, that's what I'll tell people a lot is, don't, just because you saw something just walk across the road and you see these shows and you hear these fantastical encounters like Bigfoot drove my John Deere tractor down to the store and I had a beer with him, you know, don't
Sounds
don't
like a
think
great
just
song.
right. Don't think just because you didn't have something like that happen that your report is not, your experience don't mean nothing, because
Right.
those those experiences, those encounters that the road crossings and the seeing out in the field and whatever, all of those are data points, and that's what we're looking for. So the more that we can find out about these creatures or entities, the better off we're going to be because honestly, it's gotten to where it's the waters are so muddied that we can't separate the physical and the paranormal and the spiritual side of it. And I do believe there is a separation. I do think we're we're experiencing different phenomena out in the field.
Okay.
I was never an orb guy, never have been. I'm like, whatever, and we were up in Brown Springs Cemetery. But Brown Springs Cemetery is different because you have everything up there, not just
Okay.
paranormal. There is Bigfoot sightings. There's been dogman sightings. There's, along with the paranormal stuff, and you actually have the normal natural stuff too. And we were up there. It was me. One of the times Brandy went up there, and me and Brandy and Nicholas, another one of our investigator that I've met through Danielle actually, um, and a friend of Brandy's, Holly, was up there, and there was kind of like four different experiences of just boom, 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 boom. One weird thing that we came across when we were walking in the cemetery. This is a very old and dilapidated cemetery. It hasn't been taken care of. It's been beat up. It's been vandalized. It's got a lot of dark energy. The whole place, because it sets up about 100 yards up a hill back in the woods. And from what we found out, it was originally an Indian burial mound, and then it got used by the family that had the place first, which was
Mm.
the county's named after, in the wilderness life sanctuary or whatever it's named after, Love. He used it as his cemetery. When then whoever took over from that family used it as their cemetery, and then it looks like it just got kind of a hodgepodge, and it just, a lot of people were buried there. Well, then there
Okay.
was a guy that bought the place, and for some reason decided that, well, since it's on top of a hill, it's got good drainage, there's a freshwater spring at the bottom. Oh, what a great place to build my pig pens! And he built his pig pens in the middle of the cemetery. So there's in the whole area down into that part of the Red River was a body dump for the Dixie Mafia for a while. There's been bodies found all up and down the river. I mean, it's just, and still to this day they're finding people out there. So it's got a very dark energy that is part of the place. There's even, we heard a report that there's a dark spirit, or a big dark spirit, that is either over, or is either watching over, or um, has spirits up there captured and on hold, and they
Okay.
won't let it go. And so we tried to look into it a little more, and there is a picture out there that was taken by a guy, and he sent it to me. He was showing me just how grown up the place was, and then I looked at the picture. He texted it to me, and I looked at the picture. I said, "What about that big boy standing back there in the trees?" And he didn't see it. So the next text I get was, "Holy crap!" But we went out and we tried to recreate this photo, and we took measurements and everything. And this thing is either um, 12 foot or 14 foot high, depending if he was standing on a log or not. But it's just a big, dark shadow creature thing. I mean, that's all. It's,
Okay.
And at first we thought, oh, it's a big old alpha male Bigfoot. I'm not so sure now because we got back into the legend and the lore of the place, and we also talked to a couple of mediums, and none of them knew we were talking to the other, and it was in a
Okay.
space over months, but we got the same result from all of them, and that was that there is a large dark entity that either oversees that graveyard or is there and keeping souls trapped there,
Wow.
which would explain a lot of stuff. We were coming out of the cemetery one time. We had a particularly hairy night, and it was the first time I'd ever felt anything try to attach itself to me, which I've never brought anything home with me. I won't let it.
Okay.
But
What do you mean? What do you mean by you felt something it's not attached to? In which way?
well, we were up there, and it was me and Amy and Laney and two of my trackers, and it was Gary Spikes Jr. and Senior, and we were all up there. The two Garys were over about 20 yards or so away from us, and me and the girls were over here. And when we first started walking up there, my arms started getting hot and heavy, and I, and I'm like, what the, and I'm talking to them because hey Nellie, they have dealt with the supernatural or the paranormal more than I have, and I'm telling them what's going on. Laney is very, very sensitive, and they're talking to me, and it's like, well, it sounds like something's trying to attach itself to you, and I just shook it off. I mean, literally, I just went, get off me, and
Okay.
and it worked. But as we progressed into the cemetery, they had a obelisk, and
Okay.
we got three words across it, and it was the type where the words pop up on the screen, and we got three words, and it said "Solo Beast Grace." Okay, those words came into play a lot. I mean, it's hard to deny. And I love the question that I ask all the time: when does this stuff stop being coincidence? Okay, so earlier down at camp, um, Gary Jr. had made a remark about Amy's husband. Damn, he's a beast, and he's a big old boy, big old boy. And at that time, his truck and my truck were parked down there, and he was in his truck, and he was the only one down there. So you got beast, you got solo. Okay. Well, then the third word, grace. Now this really sealed the deal for me. Grace is the name of my truck.
Oh, you named your truck.
Yeah, I named my truck Grace, and I named it Grace after Albert Fish's last victim. And I truly believe that she reached out beyond the grave and got him busted. That's what I think happened. But because he did something he's never done before, and that got him busted. So anyway, so at the same time, all of this is going on, and this has happened simultaneously. Gary Jr. and Senior are over there, and they're seeing these several cat-like entities up in the trees.
Whoa.
And thank you, Pixie. And the they come down out of the trees, and they were going from two legs to four legs. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And yeah, well, at first they thought, and there are big cats in the area, so you have to be wary of that. And at first, that's what they thought they were dealing with, but they've never seen so many in a pack or whatever. And then they hit them. I mean, it was to the point to where Senior had drawn his pistol, and when they hit them with a spotlight, they disappeared. And then when they turned the light back off, they reappeared right there where they were.
Oh my God, dude.
So,
That's
and they,
crazy.
yeah, so they were encroaching on them. And so this was all going on at the same time. Well, when we got back together, we decided it was time to go ahead and go down, head back down. So we headed back down, and on the way back down, Junior noticed this mound of sandy ground over next to the trail. Now, the trail itself going up and down to the cemetery is a bit hinky because it's a washout. It started
Okay.
out honestly either a with foot traffic or at least wagons back in the day, because the youngest death date in the cemetery is 1924, and that's the death date. So it's very, very old. And but over time, it is washed out and washed out and washed out to the point to where the ground level, when you're walking through the washout, the ground level is eye level and sometimes over
Oh,
your head.
wow. Okay, that's
So it's
way out
perfect.
then.
Yeah, so it's perfect. It's a perfect ambush spot. So you really have to be wary of the wildlife. And so we're going down there, and he notices this mound of. Thank you, Nellie. The this sandy mound. Well, I don't know why. Well, I do know. I mean, sand. He said, "I'm gonna go see if there's any tracks over here." So he walks over there, and there were two tracks, but he wasn't what we expected.
Okay.
They were 12. They were about 12 to 13, 14 inches around across, and they were hooving.
That's odd because that doesn't fit with a dogman. That fits with something
Yeah.
that I don't
Now
think I don't think I've heard of before. What would you now looking
well,
back at that? How would you classify what you see?
well, we went right back to looking at that big critter that we had in that, or that whatever that being that we had caught in that picture, that a guy had caught in that picture years before, and the stories of the big dark entity that watches over or traps souls there.
Okay.
And if you go down that road with it, it kind of adds up. But we're not ones. Hey, Madeline, we're not ones to jump to a conclusion. We're just it's well, this could be what we're looking at, because we do know the paranormal can affect the physical world, and but it's just a matter of how much. This particular night that I'm talking about came on the heels of a thunderstorm that rolled through the night before. We actually camped through a tornado warning. I mean, it went green on us. It was getting hanky. But anyway, we that's just an example of one night, and I've that place never disappoints. Something off usually happens there. And I've caught disembodied voices, disembodied growls. I've caught EVPs. I've got, the I've had them. I've had some. I'm not going to say it's Bigfoot. I'm not going to. I'm not. I can't make that jump because I didn't see it with my own eyes.
Okay. Fair enough.
But when you put everything together, it kind of eliminates anything. But we had something. Me and Nick would camp down there. We wouldn't arrived a day early one time, and we were camped next to each other, and we just went to bed, and I had my rain fly off of my tent. He was all buttoned up. I want to wake up, roll over, hear something, wake up, and see a face looking into me. I want that to happen. And
Wow.
so, but he was all buttoned up. Well, we started hearing, and we weren't talking or anything. We were laying there trying to sleep. And I start hearing footsteps around our tents. And I'm just getting giddy. I'm waiting for, something to look in my tent. But they avoided my tent for the most part and went over to his. And they got, we're laying there. And then after a few minutes of hearing this stuff, all I hear is, "Tex, is that you?"
Oh.
Nope. Nope.
And you're yelling at the tent. I thought it was you.
And I had a pretty good idea what it was because I've had that
Okay.
stuff happen before.
Now you were
And
talking about orbs. I'm sorry to kind of, but you were
yeah,
saying you didn't
yeah,
believe. Okay, I don't want to get back to the
I'll get there.
orbs. All right, buddy.
I'll get there. But it got to the point to where they pushed on his tent,
Okay.
and he started hollering at him, all right, it's too damn close. Get the hell out of here, that type of thing. And so we went to sleep. Well, he had heard something dragging and then before he fell asleep. Well, the next morning we get up and Gary Sr. comes in, and we had went, looking for firewood and stuff the day before and everything. We had a pretty good sized pile of it. And Nick had found this branch that was about that big around and about 8 feet long, and it had been sawed off on both sides. And he actually found it up by the cemetery, or he didn't find it, but another guy, another one of our tracker's sons, found it when he was out there up by the cemetery and brought it down there. And he had tossed it out in the woods so nobody'd find it so he could use it next time he was there. Nick found it and brought it into the camp. So, and we didn't know nothing about this at the time. So anyway, Pops comes in, and that's Gary Sr. I call him Pops because I love the old man. But he comes in, he gets to camp, and he's looking around, and he goes, "What is this branch laying over here?" We didn't notice, but the branch had been taken off of our wood pile about 30 feet away. And it was over in the grass, which the grass was probably 18 inches high. And it had we had a heavy dew the night before. And where this branch was laying, the only place that the grass was laid down was right where this branch was laying. There were no drag marks. There were no signs of any animals that had, drugged that thing over. We tried to debunk that thing. Maybe a beaver drug it over. But if a beaver or anything had drug it over, you would see marks from the beaver after he dropped it and then went on his way. There was none of that. There was
you would see the grass maybe even pushed down kind of in a line.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. There was none of that. The branch had been thrown over. There was probably 6-8 feet of grass between the bottom of the stick and the top of the stick from, so it was very clearly something had just chunked it. Well, to do that takes an opposable thumb.
True.
So, and then we had, of course, you rewind and go, well, we had crap walking around our tents last night. So, because where we camp is between the Red River and it's got a gully, and then the other side of our camp is bordered by a wild plum thicket. It's almost a perfect spot. So, but anyway, going back to the orb thing, Brandy was with me, Nick was with me, and Holly was with me, and we were up in the cemetery. And the first kind of weird thing we found was some kind of, y'all be sure and subscribe to I Jupiter, man.
Thank you,
and so we found some kind of, I don't know what to call it. I don't think it was a memorial. There was a candle, one of those tall glass candles.
Yeah.
And it was that had been burned, and there was absolutely nothing left of the candle. It was all burned out. And on the ground next to it was something else that was burnt. We couldn't tell what it was. And then there were 2 pictures, and they were modern pictures of young people.
That's weird.
And and there's also something burnt inside the candle. Okay. And this is all sitting. So we're thinking somebody's doing some, hoodoo or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know any better. I don't, I just, if I see something, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to like a little kid in the candy store. But, so I reached down and pick it up, and we're live at this point. And Krista Krista's hosting the live, and she's hollering at me, "Don't touch it! Don't touch it! Don't touch it!" And
She's
Brandy's
right.
slapping my head, "Don't touch it! Don't
They're
touch it!"
right. They give you sound advice.
Yeah. So we go through the cemetery, and nothing really happens, and we're coming out, and now I get these events mixed up, these two events mixed up. I don't know
Okay.
which happened first. I think it was this that happened first. We're standing back to back when we decided to go dark. Okay. So we all stand back to back, and me and Brandy are facing the back of the cemetery, and Nick and Holly are facing the front. And lo and behold, me and Brandy watched this thing. All had to be all of 8 feet tall. Walk through the trees. Now, walk through the trees on the back side of the cemetery. Now, I'm not talking about through the trees. I'm talking about, you could see it go behind the tree, come out on the other side, that type of thing. It wasn't walking directly into and out of the tree. But the gait and everything that it had that I've seen before, and we watched this thing for probably 15, 20, 30 seconds. And we both saw it at the same time. And I said, "You see that?" She goes, "Yes." "Oh my God, blah, blah, blah." So that happened. And then they heard, so we didn't hear nothing. They heard something walking on their side. So, like, okay, that's cool, and everything. Well, then we break out Nick's thermal, and Nick's looking through the thermal and everything, and he catches something on the thermal that we don't see with our naked eye. And it's about either softball, I think it's about softball size, what I say.
Okay.
But it's a ball. It's a heat signature. It's very, very hot, and it's about 12 to 16 inches off the ground, and it's hovering. Okay, it's undulating a lot like a bubble in a lava lamp. Okay.
Okay. Is there a color to it?
No, it was black and white thermal. It had a hot.
Okay.
It had a heat signature. We could not see it with the naked eye, only on thermal. And so we're sitting there, and we're handing we watch this thing for minutes, and we're handing the thermal back and forth watching this thing, and it's on the channel. People can go check it out. I mean, we're shitty camera. I'm sorry, we're crappy camera people, but so then I'm like, well, let's find out what this thing is. I walk towards it, and it backs off. It keeps the same distance between me and it as I approach it. And then when I turned around and went back, it kept the same distance coming back, and then settled right back where it was when I got back to where I was with the other people. And we kept watching it and kept watching it, and it gradually cooled off and cooled off and cooled off and just disappeared. So then, I know, right? So, and like I said, I'm not an orb guy. I'm
Okay.
just not. It's not something that I look for. It's not something I've seen a lot of. This is like the second one I've seen, and I don't even know about the first one. I don't even know where to put it. But anyway, so we head down the trail, and we're walking down the trail, and I got a bad knee. So I going up something is a lot easier than going down. I have to be real careful with my foot.
Okay.
And so I'm behind everybody, and we're all kind of strung out. Nick and Holly up front, and Nick's got this blot out the freaking sun light that he has, and Holly's carrying the light. Brandy's in between me and them, and they hear something. Well, they stop, and things get kind of chaotic. Holly is holding the light. She's never been out doing this kind of stuff. It's kind of her first rodeo. So she's a paranormal investigator. She's not used to being out in the woods. But so she ducks down, runs around behind Nick, and buries her head in the back of his shirt. Well, she's got his light, so he can't see nothing. So Brandy is kind of trying to shine her light Nick's got his pistol drawn, trying to talk to whoever or whatever is coming through the brush. And so here comes this deadgum armadillo, just full speed, and didn't even know we were there, evidently. I mean, they can't see worth a damn, but they can hear. And we weren't being quiet. But he was at a full gait, and he come hauling butt down a side trail. And when he saw Nick and Holly, he did a power turn and took off down the trail. Well, after we was like, oh, it's just an armadillo. I'm laughing. I'm way up above it, and I'm laughing my butt off because it's another squatchadillo, you know. But then something tears off the other direction through the brush, and it's busting limbs and everything else getting away. So, and it was the opposite direction of it. Well, it was what me and Brandy saw was walking from that direction. So it either that doubled what we saw doubled back, or it was another one. Which what we're finding out is normally there's one. There's more than one. You know,
okay,
Bigfoot around. Now I'm not saying that's what that was. Again, we can't.
Right.
But that's what it's kind of where it adds up, you know. But so that was my big orb experience, and everybody I talked to about it, you know, that are orb people and have more experience with it than I do. It's like, well, we couldn't see. Well, what color was it? We couldn't see it with our naked eye.
Right. I was talking to Daryl about that. He was Daryl Denton. I don't know if you know who Daryl Denton is.
Yeah, I know Daryl. Yeah.
Okay. He was talking about like there was ones floating across the ground about 2 feet up. There was like the size of like a beach ball. And then it got really close to his buddy's foot. And he shined a flashlight on it. And then it like turned into an opossum, hissed at him, and then ran away. Like
what do you do with that?
I don't know. Moonwalk out of there, run. I would run.
Yeah,
I need some new trousers. I gotta get out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible, dude. How long have you been doing? You said I think we shortly spoke before we started. I think you said you started doing at least the Sasquatching part of it since 2017.
Yeah, they're about 16, 17.
Could you maybe go into one of your experiences, or maybe your
absolutely.
first experience, whatever one you'd like to get into?
Well, my first experience happened when I was 16, but it didn't. I was like so many other people. You can't talk about it. This was in 82.
Okay.
You know, dogman term didn't even exist. If it had been a Bigfoot that I'd seen, it would have been a lot easier to explain, but it wasn't. Basically, all I know, back then, all I knew to call it was a freaking werewolf. And I was coming home from hunting, and the sun hadn't went down yet. And I was walking down a white gravel road, and I was fixing to make a beeline for my house across our pasture, across the fence and go across our pasture and make a beeline for the house. And this thing, I don't know if I interrupted a meal. I don't know what happened, but this thing come out of the brush on my left side and ran across the road about 30 feet in front of me. And I know what I saw. You know, I mean, it was big. It was canine. It was, you know, I mean, it turned his head. I mean, and I tell people all the time the picture that I have frozen in my head really is when he turned his head. He was in mid stride, and when he turned his head and he snarled at me.
Oh my God! Dude.
So, which honestly was kind of cool because it gave me a chance to see his tongue and his gums. And
I'm sure you didn't. I'm sure you didn't think that at the time, though. Did you?
No. It was. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it was.
You're way more of a man than I am.
No, it was an underwear changing moment, to say the least. But you know, it's when I saw this thing, and I guess because I spent so much time outdoors, you know, as a youngster, and I was raised up camping and hunting and fishing and trapping. You know, I mean, I know when I saw him head to toe, and I got some good detail. But he ran across the road and dove over our barbed wire fence. And when he hit the ground, he went down onto all fours. He was on two legs when he ran across in front of me. And when he dove, he went over and hit the ground and went down on all fours. Well, the grass was really high. And I saw the grass move for about 10, 15 yards, and he was gone.
Oh, my Lord, dude.
So I took the long way home, which was going up the road, across the front of our place, and then back down our driveway. When I walked into I walked in the back door, and I always tell everybody, my mom had a golden rule that no guns in the kitchen. And if that ain't country, I don't know what is. But
no guns in the kitchen. I'm gonna put that in my house.
Right? But I walked in the back door, walked in the hallway, and I pretty much just collapsed into a kitchen chair, and I put my gun on the kitchen table.
Oh wow!
And my mom was in the kitchen washing dishes, cooking. I don't know what she's doing. And she was going to scold me, I guess, for having my gun. And she turned around and she just, oh my God, what's wrong with you? You're white as a ghost. That's what I remember her saying. And I remember trying to tell her what had happened, and I couldn't speak. I was in a state of shock, and I couldn't talk. Well, my sister lived on the same property, about 50 yards away from us, and she called my sister. My sister come over. My sister's 20 years older than I am. My sister come over, and it took them a better part of an hour to calm me down enough where I could tell them what had happened. And they didn't tell me I was crazy. They didn't tell me I was lying. They did try to rationalize it. Well, maybe you saw, a big dog or a wolf, or something. Or
that's what you would do. I mean,
trying to reassure me, because I was scared.
Yeah.
And
that's what I would do. That's what I would do if my daughter's seen something like that. Even knowing that we know that these things exist, we would still try to comfort our children. That's normal. It's completely normal.
Right. So as time went on, years and years, I stuck to my story. I mean, and they finally resolved the fact that, well, you saw something. We don't know what it was. But anyway, I didn't talk about it. I mean, who am I going to tell? Right. You're going to get labeled as nuts or, oh, you're full of crap. And I didn't want either one. So years later, 2015, 2016, I guess about 2014, 2015, I'm listening to YouTube. I'm thumbing through YouTube at work. And I was looking at some, paranormal, Bigfoot stuff, that type of thing. And I kept seeing this thing pop up that was, dogman report. I'm like, what is a dogman? And I started listening to some of the reports. I said, oh my gosh, they saw the same thing I did. And so I reached out to this woman that had a channel at the time. She was this wonderful person. I think she's still with us, but she's not doing the YouTube thing anymore. But I reached out to her because she had a pretty spooky experience too, and had been studying it for a while. Right. So I talked to her, and she didn't really question me about that encounter. She questioned me, and I think I run into him again about 8 months later. But I didn't see him this time. But other things that she was questioning about, well, was there what was happening around the area? Was there any of this stuff going? Any livestock missing, this type of thing? And about a year before this had happened, we had a dog go missing. And the only way we found him was he started stinking. So he was underneath the house. Well, Daddy's not going to go under there and get him. I get to go crawl under there.
Yeah, wow. Welcome to being a son.
Yeah. So I crawled under the house and I dragged the dog out. Of course, he's dead. But it looked like somebody had just held him up by the front feet and just gutted him.
Oh, my God.
And like I said, this is before I saw or heard anything like that and stuff. And my daddy said, well, he probably got into it with the bobcat and, that type of thing. Maybe, he run into him down at the barn and he just crawled his way up there. Didn't look like it, but okay, whatever. Dad knows.
There's no way.
Right.
Okay.
So I didn't really question it, but that was about a year before my sighting, and we would always hear about, a mare drop a foal and either the foal and her would get tore up or the foal would get killed or something. Same thing with, a mama cow and a calf and, other stuff going missing, chickens or whatever. And it always got blamed on one or two things. It was either a big cat in the area, which we did. We'd had a big cat that roamed the area, or a pack of wild dogs. Now, me and Randy pretty much grew up in the same place. And there was a bunch of us boys. I mean, we were raised up that way. We were out camping by ourselves, hunting by ourselves, all that kind of stuff. None of us. We had this conversation when a bunch of us got together not long ago. And we said, we never did see that pack of wild dogs that was killing everything. I said, no, we never did,
Come to think of it.
But the reason they blamed it on wild dogs because there was canine tracks around.
Okay.
So, but, and there was some other stuff that happened, but,
what an incredible childhood to have. I mean, I moved a lot. I played in the woods a little bit, I grew up in the city. We had our own kind of jungle per se, but to have your dog entrails torn out and thrown up underneath the house, that's special. Let's go ahead and put that out there. That's incredible.
Yeah, let's go with that.
Yeah.
But, and I didn't know until I was talking to her that for some reason, these things known as dogmen, they have a tendency to kill dogs and stuff and throw them underneath structures that are on property. I don't know why.
That's the first time I've heard of that.
Yeah, well, it seems to be something that happens quite well. If you have a dogman on the property and you have something, a lot of times it'll end up thrown underneath it. But yeah, but then like I said, I didn't talk about it, and then fast forward years later, I'm looking at YouTube, and so I got to know her pretty well and did some stuff for her on her channel and stuff. And then I ended up being co-hosting on somebody else's channel for about 2 years, and he invited me to go out to his research area, which is now the same place I researched, because he had to quit doing it for one reason or the other.
I'm sorry. Someone just put a really funny thing. I think the Eye of Jupiter is Tom. Now where is Jerry hiding? All right, Freaky, you're gonna. This is. I think my show is gonna be right up your alley because I tend to because we were talking about in the beginning, texting myself. We were talking about trying to give levity to this because text when when you have a death in the family, for example, well, that's where everyone can kind of connect to, if whether you've had these experiences or not. At the end of the funeral, when everyone's back at the house and talking, if someone cracks a joke about the person, the beloved one, it kind of makes the thing accepted and all right. So I think you guys are in the right place. Thanks everyone for being here right now. I've never had this much interaction, and you can see, Tex, I am doing my very best.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad to hear it. I shared the link on my channel, so I'm glad to see the portrait showed up. I'm glad to see it.
I'm having a hard time with it because for some reason my computer, I bought it in Germany. I'm a former U.S. soldier, and I bought my computer in Germany. I moved to Mexico, and Mexico doesn't do daylight savings time, so when I put it up, it'll say, I'll put 5 p.m. on my time because that's where I'm now. I'm actually Central Time, but it moves me to Mountain Time. So then the YouTube doesn't know what to do or Facebook doesn't know what to do. So I got to figure that whole thing out. I was going to do that after the show today. So thanks everyone for coming. I'm sorry. Tex, please go back to the story.
So, but anyway, I don't even remember where I was now. So this old boy invited me out to his research area, and I had my first Bigfoot sighting, and I was hooked. You know, we had pulled up at about 8:30 in the morning, and we got out of my truck, and I'm getting the lay of the land because I've never been to this place before, and I'm picking out some landmarks and that type of thing because I don't want to get down in these bottoms and get lost. And he's getting his gear or whatever together on the passenger side of my truck. Now we're parked on the edge of a hayfield, and we're standing there, and we're not next to a tree line, a thin tree line about 10, 15 yards wide. And then on the other side of this tree line is a wheat field. Well, the wheat was about 4 feet at the time. And I'm just looking around, looking through this tree line, looking over in the wheat field. And I see this figure pop up in the middle of the wheat field, stand up, look around like this, and then take off running down to the bottoms. And I saw him from about the waist up till he hit the fire break, and then a couple of steps I could see him head to toe. And then he went into the trees, and I didn't see him. But my exact words were, "I'll be damned. There goes one right there." And when we did go over and we scoped out the wheat field and everything, that's how we figured out the wheat was 4 feet high. So that makes this thing, 8 foot or, thereabouts. So we went on down into the bottoms, and we took a left, which would cross his path where he was headed. And as we was walking down to the bottoms, we would hear something up on the ridge on our left. And we would hear, like something coming, moving through the brush. And then we would hear, or we might even get a single knock. It didn't matter. And we would walk another, 100 or so yards, and we did the exact same thing. So what we think was going on, we think it was the one I saw, and he was pushing a troop or a group or a clan, whatever you want to call them, in front of us. So we wouldn't walk up on them. We think that's what was going on.
Okay.
And then, like I said, I was hooked. I started going back to the area. He quit doing research, and because he was out of town for a few years, and so I just started doing. It's a public area. It's nobody owns it, but so I started doing research. Well, I started doing something that he didn't do, and that's actually spending the night out there alone. And so I would go out there for 2 or 3 days at a time by myself. And I started having all these experiences and everything. And the good thing, that's a good and bad thing, because one, I think you're going to have more experiences when you are alone.
I'd imagine, yes.
But on the back side of that, on the different side of the coin, it's dangerous, for one.
Yeah.
2, you don't have anybody to verify what you're seeing or experiencing.
So did you start taking other people with you?
Well, and I would take other people with me. I just, when I had the chance, I'd go by myself.
Okay.
I didn't have to. It was kind of a deal where, well, no, I can't find no way to go. I don't care. I'll go by myself. I grew up doing this shit. I don't care. Because the logic that I used to get over what I saw when I was 16 was that if, this thing was hey, Corey, if this thing was in the area and it obviously had the chance, to kill me, it didn't.
Right.
So it really, and that's what really let me go back to what I was doing in my early years. And plus, I just got mad because I felt like I was being bullied because this thing was trying to keep me from doing what I love. I'm not saying I just bull rush right back out in the damn brush like I was, but it was baby steps, because there was a time period there when I was scared of the freaking dark. I mean, we had what people call a booger light, which is a street light out in the country. And, if it was dark and I was a booger light, they call it a booger light, because
That's so interesting because, some of these Sasquatch, Bigfoot, whatever you call them, some people refer them as wood boogers or boogers. Yes. That's so interesting.
And it's the same reasoning.
Oh, really?
Because a lot of people will install these lights and it keeps them away. But
okay,
sometimes it works, sometimes not so much. But anyway, it was so bad that if I was over at my sister's house and I had to go, back over to my house, or I was at my house, I had to go over to my sister's house for some reason. It was at a dead run if it was at night, and I didn't go anywhere off the property. I didn't, and if I had to go down to the barn or anywhere, I went loaded for bear. And my dad, he was always, why are you taking the shotgun down, just to go feed the whatever? Oh, not just snake, or I think we may have bobcat around, or I could make up some excuse, but I wouldn't go anywhere, and and it took me a while. So, but I did eventually go out, and of course that's when I had my second experience with what I believe is what I saw. So,
okay.
But yeah, I was going there. There was a guy's place that I hunted, and it was about 1,200 acres or so. And the arrangement that you would have back then was, they would, if they let you go on their place and hunt or fish or whatever, you were their eyes and ears for places that they didn't always see. They had a big place. And if there was an issue, you either fixed it or you brought it to their attention and you helped them fix it. So that was the trade-off, right?
Perfect.
And exactly. And so I had this arrangement with this guy, and so did a set of twins that lived on the other side of his place that I went to school with. And this place was he had part of it done in hay, and part of it was just undeveloped, and the damn brush was so thick that you had to travel the game trails, and sometimes that meant down, crouch down or down on your hands and knees for a little bit. But it would open up into these clearings that were anywhere from the size enough just to lay down into a small footprint of a house. And it had the short, like 12-inch prairie grass in it, maybe a scrub oak or something. So it was just fantastic. And the game was, the trapping and the hunting was just phenomenal. And so I was going back to this place, and there was a deadfall over the fence that we hadn't fixed yet. So I was fixing to run up the deadfall and jump over the fence. And I heard what I thought was somebody walking in the brush. And I said, "Hey, who's out there?" And it stopped. And then I said, "Hey, David, Doug, at one of y'all, let me know." And it just shifted its weight. I said, "Look, if you don't say something, I'm going to shoot." And it just shifted its weight again. So I popped around off the deer. Probably the stupidest decision I'd ever made. And then all hell broke loose. It was breaking branches and everything, and it sounded like a bull coming through there, which I'm not saying it wasn't, but, there wasn't no cattle over there. But I didn't wait around. I tucked tail, turned the ass of my ran, and I was gone. I never looked back. If this thing was fixing to snatch me up, I didn't want to know about it. And so I ran all the way back, about a mile back to the house, maybe a mile and a half, and I run all the way back to the house. I didn't ever look back. But and that is Amber, it was mad. That's what I think. So, but it would and that time, when I first had my first sighting, it took me about 6-8 months to get to where I would go back out doing what I was doing. But this time it didn't take me as long, because that's where that logic kicked in. That this thing's been around, who knows how long, and obviously it's been in these woods. It's had every opportunity it wanted to. It ain't hurt me yet, because I do not believe these things are monsters. I don't think they're waiting to kill you. I don't think, does it happen? Absolutely.
Okay.
But I also don't think that a lot of what people call aggressive encounters are actually aggressive encounters. I've been bluff charged. I've been screamed at. I've been hollered at. I've been huffed at. I've been growled at, the whole 9 yards. But to me, those aren't aggressive. Okay, that is it's just like any other animal.
Defense mechanism.
Yeah, that is that animal trying to keep the encounter from escalating. He's
yes, I agree. Okay.
Sometimes you got to take a hint and get the hell out of Dodge. And but a lot of people consider that aggressive encounters. I don't. I think it's that animal's way or whatever you want to refer to them as. We're all animals. Mm-hmm. Of saying that's close enough. Back.
Have you had any
Texas? You're in my living room. Get the hell out. Do what?
Yeah. Have you had any I've heard people having encounters where they experience a thing called like mind speak. Have you had anything like that happen to you?
No, I haven't. But I've got dear friends that I respect the hell of that have.
Yes, me too.
I don't know what to do with it, and I will tell you this, like I've said so many times, it concerns me legitimately. I'm being funny here. I have a legitimate concern that this is not Bigfoot that they're communicating with, because paranormal 101, spirits are going to lie to you.
True.
And they know what you're looking for, because they'll pretend to be loved ones. They'll pretend to be small children. They'll pretend to be a lot of things to get their foot in the door with you. Because once you start communicating with something, you're inviting it in.
So you're saying maybe like a demonic type presence? Is that what you're trying to?
I don't know if it's demonic's a strong word. Okay,
that's true. It's a heavy word. Yes.
Yeah, and a lot of people jump to that when I'm talking about this. They well, you're taking this demonic. No, I'm not. There's a lot of maybe not demonic, but these spiritual beings that maybe don't have your best interest at heart. And if that's, I just don't want to take the chance of openly communicating with something. The whole freaky up to the old tricks. I say, when I hear voices in my head and they want me to do something questionable, I question it 3 times more. That's true.
I don't know who Freaky Geek is, but they're killing it.
Oh yeah, they're a porcher. They're a porcher. They came over.
These are your normal listeners.
Oh yeah.
You have a great crowd with you.
They are awesome. I'm telling you, they are some of the wittiest and smartest people on the planet.
Because I'm paying attention to you, Tex. You're having incredible stories. I think we have a great flow. I think you're a fantastic podcaster. Well, you say you don't know, and other people and this, but you know how to do what you're doing. You're fantastic at this, and I would implore you to continue. But at the same time, your watchers, your listeners, your followers are over on the side, and I'm constantly laughing.
Oh yeah, they're a hoot. They are a hoot.
Oh my god.
But yeah, I just, that's my concern with the whole mind speak thing. Now, it may not be, but most of the time when you ask people that are having these experiences, how do you know it's Bigfoot that you're communicating with? You generally, not always, you generally get 2 answers, 1 or 2 answers. Either I just know, or they told me so, which that ain't good enough for me. I'm sorry.
True. That's interesting.
But yeah. And Madeline, you're exactly right. Thank you so much. She says malignant spirits / entities will masquerade as anything harmless to try and gain a spiritual opening. Exactly. And I'm not saying that's the case. It may be Bigfoot. I hope it is. God, I hope it is. If I never have that experience, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But that's like the whole once you see one, you're marked theory.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Yes.
That don't carry a lot of weight with me. I think what it is once you have it, and this goes with the paranormal experience or anything, once you have these experiences, it opens your mind up to where you may not even be looking for this stuff consciously, but in your subconscious, you're on the lookout for those patterns because humans key in on patterns and movement.
True,
Okay.
and on fear.
Right. If you see a Bigfoot or you see a dogman, okay, well now you go out in the woods. If you're not actively looking, trust me, you're subconsciously looking for that pattern.
Yeah, because I think the
That's
scientists were saying
exactly
something like our consciousness can, like if you were to, to quantify it, that there's 100 bits of information coming into your
Mhm.
head at one time. Our brains were only like programmed or through, I'm not, crapping on anyone's religious
Right.
or religious beliefs. It's just something I've heard, to like 10% of that for survival instincts. But if you have this experience happen now subconsciously, like you're saying, Tex, your mind is open to it. So therefore, it seems like you're being marked, but maybe
Yeah.
it's just that you're more aware of it. Very interesting point of view
Exactly.
that I have yet to
Exactly.
hear. Great.
And I will say this, and this is just my belief, folks. And I don't beat anybody up for how they believe. Whether you go to heaven or hell, that's a personal thing for you. Okay. And we may all be hit. I don't know. Nobody does. They can preach the word all they want, but you know what? Even the devil knows the Bible. So um,
Oh, that was heavy,
I'm just,
dude.
well, it's true, but he knows it better than you do. But in my belief, I am a Christian. Okay. I'm all right. So when I go out, I put spiritual armor on in my own way. I've been doing this for a while now. It's whatever I'm doing, it seems to work.
There
Okay.
you go, my friend. There you go.
But I'm not going to beat you over the head with a crucifix either, trying to get you to convert. If you, I mean, it's just not going to happen. Not from this board.
Well,
But
salvation lies within, Tex. Salvation lies
well,
within.
well, that's right. And part of, and I'll tell you, and I know this sounds bad, but and this comes from me doing the true crime stuff.
Oh, wow.
There has been a lot of evil people that quoted the Bible and claimed to be washed in the blood. Well, guess what? They were probably washing the blood, but it wasn't Jesus.
That's true. There you
It
go.
was whoever they were killing. But um, there's a lot of flim flam people out there, and my thank you, Pixie. She's such a sweetheart.
She
Um,
is. Hi, Pixie. Hi.
if if you're preaching really really hard and you're telling people, if you can't have a conversation without telling somebody that you're born again Christian, who are you really trying to convince?
That is I'm not Christian. All right. I'm a believer in God. I have God in my life
There you
for
go.
sure. For absolutely sure. It's kind of the same thing as a vegetarian or a vegan. When
Gotcha.
they go to a barbecue, they just have to tell you about it. It's like you're
Yeah.
not, I know about it already. So why are you perfect? Well put, Tex. Me and you are going to be. I think you and I are going to be the best of friends coming up, dude.
Well, I hope
This is
so.
the first time meeting. This is the first time
Well,
meeting you.
well, I'll tell you what. That's one thing that you can never have enough of, and you don't ever run out of room. And that's friendship. That's the biggest room there
That's
is. So
ah, what a great man. Sorry, I'm speaking out loud to myself. It's a little embarrassing.
no, it's okay, man. It's okay.
Yeah. I'm down here, way down here in Mexico, talking to somebody from Texas. It's always because I heard about your podcast because I was on with Brandy and
Mm-hmm.
Krista, and I've spoken with Rob, and they were like, oh, and they have their break, and they were like, oh, come on, Texas Front Porch, and I was like, oh, who's Texas Front? What is Tex? And I literally, when I started writing it, Texas, Texas. I didn't know it was a possessive S. And I was like, okay, I'll contact him. And I was able to contact you through another friend. I had to bump him because I had to go do some work down in the middle of a cattle ranch here in the Yucatan Peninsula. And I got you on here. We talked like literally, I don't know, 30 seconds? What are we talking about? What we're going to do? And next thing you know, we start, connecting over the podcast at the same time as we're recording it live. And I think this is a perfect place to end it, dude. I will be on your show coming up. I think it's next week.
Yes, I believe it's next week.
Yeah, and then I'll tell you about my experiences. They're nothing like yours. I've had other things, but I want to keep that for the show, of course. And one more time, Tex, do me a favor. Tell the Eye of Jupiter listeners and watchers, please go over to Texas Front Porch and go and like and subscribe if you haven't already. Tell us one more time where we can find you and anything else you're trying to promote, maybe your conference or anything of that nature, my friend.
Well, you can, and what's great about it, you can go to Texas Front Porch. That is TEX apostrophe yes.
Yes.
Texas Front Porch. You can go to Blondes and Booze Paranormal Podcast. You can go to Bigfoot, Michigan, and Rob. Even Donnie Cho says stuff. You can go over there, and it's going to lead you right back to us.
There you go. You're coming back to the porch, baby. You're coming back to the porch.
Yeah. and you know what? If paranormal and cryptids are not your thing, that's okay because we do true crime too. That's with Danielle. And like I said, the latest member is Monica Rollins, and she's absolutely fabulous. She's got her own show on Thursday nights, and it's Our Paranormal World. So. It's and like I said, we don't just talk about it. I've got some of the property. I'm tired of being humble about it. Because it's not in my nature to brag. Because I would suck as a salesman because I should do. The guys get me on all the time. You can't promote crap. No, I don't. That's why y'all guys do it. But yes, Corey plus Monica is freaking gorgeous. Yes, she is. But all the girls are on my channel. I'm sorry. I hate to tell you this, and which I've actually got beat up about. Why you got all these pretty girls surrounding you? I don't know.
It's a personality thing. It's a personality thing, yeah. Tex. It's what it is.
They all feel sorry for me. They really feel sorry for my wife. That's who they feel sorry for. Yeah, it's. You can find us on YouTube or anywhere you want to listen to your podcast. June 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th that weekend, we've got the Bama Bigfoot Conference, and it's real easy. BamaBigfootConference.com. That's all it is. Go over there. We got tickets available. It's a gorgeous freaking venue. And if you want to get a vendor's table, we're doing something different. One, all the vendors, and I've been to quite a few conferences, and I'm not a fan of having the vendors in with the speakers in the same room. So the vendors are going to be separate from the speakers, and the vendors area is open to the public for free. So you can go in and, go into the vendors. And so that's creates more traffic for our vendors. Vendor tables are only $75. So, yeah. Hey, Werewolf. But, it's, y'all look it up. You can go to my channel. You can find links to it and all that kind of stuff. So, and if y'all are having an issue, or you need to talk to somebody, holler at Tom over here, and he'll be glad to help you out, man. Because I know.
Yes, absolutely. So that's right. Go out there, go out to the Bama Cryptids or the Bama Conference, and go help out Tex. And I'll just stay 1 second, man, and I'll get back to you. Let me do my little outro, and I'll chat to you after the show. Thank you so very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Anytime. So that was Tex from Texas Front Porch. That was a fantastic interview. We got up to 20 followers listening or 20 live people watching. If you guys are killing it, I have a lot to learn. I'm sure you guys will give me a hand. Welcome to the Eye of Jupiter, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming over. We talk not only about cryptids and paranormal. We talk about hidden history here. We also talk about consciousness. We talk about psychedelics, anything that that tickles my fancy. So come on back now, you hear? And like and subscribe to the show. I appreciate it very much. And remember, we are the eye, and we are aware. Thank you so much.
You have been listening to the Eye of Jupiter podcast. Remember, if you have any strange occurrences or stories or anything you'd like to share, please drop me an email at theeyejupiterpodcast@gmail.com and you'll be on the show. And remember, we are the eye and we are aware. Thank you.